Okay guys, short session today. Don't be tired. So today I'll continue the AI part. So I thought I'll start off with endpoints. Last time we looked at we initially did all about AI. What is AI and all that. You know, happy yesterday in the session everybody generative AI, everybody was smashing that button. That was good. So just a little bit about how you can use AI for endpoints and randomized control trials. So actually, one of the sample size things is how much standard deviation there is in the endpoint measurement. And the more it's not very accurate, the sample size becomes more. So you can minimize errors if you use an AI to measure the endpoint. And then if you analyze the data, you will not have the biases which human one will do. So you may in fact actually have an algorithm which is better if you use that. Let's see an example. So if you go to Shell, they do this OCT, optical coherence tomography for macular thickness in various eye conditions. So many RCTs in ophthalmology use this OCT as an outcome. But the problem is if I do and Vignesh do and Nivinda, all three of us the same funders, we will not get the same value. Or the same tech does, we will not get the same value. Also, there are different methods of measuring it. There is a central point thickness, whereas you do many things and take the mean of that. So, how do you measure that thickness? And devices also there are many. So, each device, the thickness of the macula may be different. So that macular edema also, like for our diabetic patients, there is no standard method. So, even though it's an important thing, even not only diabetes, it's like branch retinal vein occlusions, telangiectasia of the macula. This is an important outcome. So, most 99% of ophthalmics use the manual method of OCT measurement. But you can see now that if you just one shot you take a photo and the computer is able to do that, you can do not only one area, it can do the entire macula or the entire fundus it can do. So, this is an example of artificial intelligence and retinal screening. I took this article and it was published in September 2024. So, just last month or 2 months back. And they have reviewed some articles. I just want to show you some pictures. So, what you do is you take the OCT image and you teach it in a neural network. Now you all know. So, just teach the computer. At the end of it, the computer is able to decode whether there is any retinal problem or not. So, it learns from the system and we will see how accurate it becomes. So, if you look at this image, you will find that the first one is looking at fluid in the retina. That's how the image looks. This is the manually done version of fluid in the retina, and this is the AI. So, the AI is 100% accurately able to tell you that this is fluid in the retina or edema. And these are two other conditions. The same thing, this is the normal image, this is the human being identified mistakes. And then little while later, the computer is able to do exactly accurately predict the outcome. So, the computer is able to do it as well as we are able to do. So, one is that instead of you doing it, you just take the image and the AI generates the outcome in a far better, more reliable way, less measurement errors. So, actually a sample size also becomes smaller. So, once the same outcome that we choose, the computer can do better than us. The second one is you can make better outcomes which you never thought possible before. So, using the data that we give the thing, it can make better outcome. For example, from CT angiography and from the OCT, we can look at other outcomes. So, if you do microperimetry, it takes a long time for each patient. It takes about 15 minutes to do each patient. And in that, the human being looks at only 10% of the diameter of the fundus. But if you look at this OCT and microperimetry and if you give it into the AI, you can look at the entire 100% of the thing. And the error rate is only a very small amount in the end of it. So we can use, the AI model can use continuous microperimetry much faster and we can give more accurate outcomes. So nobody thought we could do the entire fundus and do this thing. So the outcome which never thought possible before, the AI is able to tell us more outcomes. So the quality and the speed of our outcome assessment can become better. So this is some image showing that how the computer is able to look at it and finally come out with abnormal, normal, just by looking at it. So the other thing is that expert looking at the image may make a mistake because they may be biased by, oh, this looks like a TB patient or this history of something. The computer doesn't have a particular bias. So it can look directly from outcome data. So I'll tell you how you do. So for clinical imaging from control and treatment, let us say you've got one-arm cancer treatment looking at the relapse of malignancy, cancer cells, image of the 3D scan. And you have a control arm and treatment arm, two arms of the RCT. So the first thing is you do is, you don't tell the computer which is intervention arm, which is control arm image. You just give the images to the computer and see whether the computer can differentiate which image is from the control arm, which image is from the intervention arm. They do it in reverse gear. So you first give the image shuffle. It's like saying this is just all patients. Whose intervention, whose control, you don't tell the computer. And then we see whether that the computer can guess from just looking at the images who was possibly intervention arm, who was control arm. Then you go back to the unshuffled data and see is there a difference between the computer's prediction of the unshuffled data and whether it can look backward. So see whether it's accurately able to predict. So this is very clever. You just give some data and say you tell intervention or control. And then see, go back to the images as intervention and control and see how it's done. So this is some important thing. The last thing for today, I thought I'll keep it short. Use of a synthetic control arm. I think last time I just briefly mentioned about the synthetic control arm. So the big problem is that you have so much inclusion exclusion criteria, by the time most people are not going to be included in a clinical trial. But randomization is essential. We all know why randomization is essential. So can we look at the natural history of disease? Can the AI predict the natural history of disease in the control arm so that we can avoid having a control arm totally? So a proof of concept. So this again from ophthalmology. Okay. So we can look at this Humphrey's visual field, and from that we can predict what will happen to this person's vision 5 years from now. It's possible. Let's look at, you know the brain, okay, this chap's most likely going to do badly. Similarly, you can look at an eye or something and say this is what's going to happen badly. But the AI will not just look at that eye, it will look at numerous data and make a prediction what is going to happen in 5 years to that person's eye. What are the data to look at? Clinical, genetic, imaging, and so many other things to say that this is the future of this person's eye. There may be still some unknown confounders which is also always accepted. So when you're doing observational research, which is what this AI is doing based on the data it has. Unobserved confounders, it can't take into account. But if you are having only an intervention arm, many people are like, hey, why should I be in a placebo arm, or why should I be in a control arm? That problem will be gone. If you have a new treatment, you want to try it out. It's still an intervention trial, but there's no one being told that since we are not sure, we'll keep you at an arm which does not get the intervention. So the first step is to look, I'll show you this how it's done. First is to do a regular RCT, and then you have a third arm which is called a synthetic control arm. And after that, you eliminate the control arm totally. Let's see how it's done. So the first step is you need to have large amount of data. If you're going to predict the future, AI needs large amount of data. Preferably from previous RCT data or previously well collected data, it needs to predict what's going to happen in the future. And to get this large amount of data, they're saying that actually pharma companies have got large volume of RCT data or other data. Or imaging companies for radiology will have large amount of data. So to predict the future, academics must also start collaborating with those kind of people. Okay, I'll show you this next one now. So the first thing is we're going to create an artificial intelligence arm. So in the regular arm, intervention arm, control arm, and an AI arm will be there. Okay. So the limitations is that if you don't have good quality data prior to this, the AI arm will not be very good. The previous data on which you are basing the future should be good quality data, not only large volume of data. The quality should be free of error. and the algorithm should be done properly. Some people ask, how the hell did this AI predict the outcomes? We don't know. That is, I was told earlier, was called the black box. But many people are uncomfortable with AI saying that I don't know how it's doing this. So I don't know, I don't want to do that. Okay, so let's look at this. I'll just take some time going through this figure. Just look at this like a randomized control study. Ignore the external control first. You have experimental arm, control arm. And you do an interim analysis. There's a ratio of whatever 1:1 or 1:2, these two arms. And at the interim analysis, we'll say futility analysis, stop the trial, or similar. That's what we usually used to do. What now they're saying is, the first step is to have a synthetic AI arm first. You're doing the regular RCT. You have that AI generated data from previous. And it is looking to see that at the interim analysis, how similar are the patients to that external control data? The previous, this is the AI arm, the external control data is the AI. Well, the data from which the AI was generated, is it similar to this? And the outcomes that the AI predicted, what was the outcomes at this stage? That's called similarity analysis. Here at this stage, when you're doing this interim analysis, you may decide that, okay, now we are going to increase the sample size, decrease the sample size. From 1:1, we may change the ratio to 2:1. So all those things are possible in regular RCT after interim analysis. And then we finally do the final analysis like a regular RCT. We have the intervention arm, control arm, and then we'll do the inference whether the treatment works or treatment doesn't work. But because we're doing this as a phase 1 AI trial, again at the end of it we see how does the AI compare with what these people got. Similarity to what the AI predicted. What the AI predicted in the control arm. Is that what is happening here? So it's called similarity analysis. So now the next step in this hybrid clinical trial, the phase 2, what they're saying we should happen next is, you can see now there's no, what is the difference? There's no intervention arm. There's no control arm. There's only an experimental arm. And the control arm is the previous AI data. And at the interim analysis, we are doing the comparison to see, okay, we are only asking one thing, because we are such confident now that the AI data is looking very similar to this. At this interim, only one futility. Shall we stop the trial? Then we continue. If you don't say futility, you continue the trial, and the inference is based on the final thing. Comparison of the experimental arm with the AI control arm. Yeah. So this is the future of clinical trials. If you have good, but all those caveats are there. Good large volume data, good quality data. That data must look similar to these data in the trial, and then we can do this. So I explain the same thing. Just the two figures side by side. So phase 1, you do a regular RCT, but you're looking to see with this AI data at the midway point, how the patient similar, is it predicting well, and then you can upgrade the assignment ratios here, and then you do a final analysis. The second step is to do just this trial, only an intervention arm. This is a bit, you may say this is similar to what we do a single arm intervention trial, where we are controlling with historical data. But here the advantage is we are saying this is slightly better quality data and it has taken many things into account. And we have tried this to see if it works, then we are going to this phase. So that's the advantage of this particular hybrid clinical trial. So I thought I'll just take just only 15 minutes today on AI. Any questions on that? Yeah.
Suppose we take outcome at all costs for that, this is a random event,
Yeah.
accident, then it will take that data from the initially that experimental and extrapolate.
But the thing is like, so that's a limit to what it can predict, but it's doing much better than what people think. Like they think, oh wait, we learned say yesterday's class or something. So AI can do so many things which we're not able to predict. So what story is there? Actually the AI, the gastro chat told. It's a nice story. When Gary Kasparov lost the deep mind, there was a that chap, he was a world champion chess player at the time. Till he lost to the AI computer, he grew at least called. Till he lost, nobody believed in AI. They thought it was a smart joke. Then they realized the moves which were done by the computer were not trained, it was not something it learned from previously. It made moves which it could have only possibly figured out by itself. And then a few years later, there's a Chinese board game called Go. It's not called Go in Chinese. It is supposed to be, or the gastro chat. It's 10 times more complex than chess. and billions of combinations are there. And all these Chinese people play that game. Like we do Sudoku, those types of people only to play that game. And the world champion in that, he was defeated by the newer version of the Deep Blue, which is called some Blue or something. And then only they, oh, the Chinese were like, oh man, this thing can. And it made moves which no human being could have predicted. How it defeated the world champion, and so we're not thinking that the AI can think by itself, but we're reasonably close to thinking that this machine can start doing some independent thoughts of what we didn't train it. It's a bit of a scary thought, which is what people are always scared about. Maybe it's a bit of a faraway situation, but if a computer can do moves which nobody in the world predicted, and not defeat a Tumba fellow, the world champion. So this AI is not so bad. It can reasonably do these kind of things. So we should also not hesitate to jump into AI. Okay, now we'll switch to the next one.